Hey guys, welcome back to Vinceville Custom. So today we're going to start a work in progress video putting together this 3D printed B3Dserk Studios Patreon that I sub to. My friend met John in Canada. He pretty much told me about this Patreon that was actually going to be producing this Power Girl statue, so I signed up on their Patreon because I really wanted to get myself a copy of this. And John printed it out for me, and I did do a garage kit review on this a while back, but right now I'm actually starting to work on it. Now, this is a side thing, so this is going to go on for like a few months for me. It's not something I'm focused on really crazy, but it's something that right now I figured I can start my video and explain that I'm filling it up because it's in a hollow print. Now, hollow prints are fine with 3D printers, and this resin that my friend John is using is actually really good resin compared to the old resin I was used to. So I really like this stuff, and actually I've been pouring resin into these pieces. So this was all printed hollow, so you can see some areas here. Looks like that little red spot was a hole there. There was a bunch of holes over here. There was some holes. There's like a hole down in there in this piece. Bunch of holes over here. Same thing with this one here. You can see over in hand there was a little hole here, there was a hole over there, and then what I did is I drumbled out that piece. So in the garage right now I'm working on a project where I molded an item that I sculpted, and I'm actually going to be casting up copies of it. But whenever I mix up my resin, sometimes in your cup you have a little bit of extra resin, possible. And after every time you make a mold and you pour your resin, you keep wasting that resin, and at the end of the project you could actually waste up to this much resin, like in this cup. This cup is like probably like half an inch thick, and all this resin, you waste it. So I'm always trying to utilize and salvage as much of my materials as possible, whether it's Aves, Magic Sculpt, Freeform Air, or even resin. I like to have extra projects. Even if I'm not going to get this project done for like 5 months for myself, at least I can keep utilizing my material. So what I did is I started with this item. I drumbled out this hole here. I filled in all these holes here with Aves and Magic Sculpt. And then when I was casting and molding my item, anytime I had a little bit of extra resin, I would pour it in here. So sometimes when I first started this item and I had to kind of like measure out how much resin I need to make, mix up for every time I mold this item I'm working on, first I had like a lot of resin extra, and the second time I had a little resin. I got to the point where I was just kind of like had a little extra resin in the cup every time. So I just kept filling this item in until it overflowed into this key, and I drumbled this out. So after this is nice and solid now. It's heavy. It's really good. There's no leaking or anything. Anything that's a little bit shiny is because I had some resin drifting on it, So it's fine in that sense. And then the next item is the leg. So as you can see, these were all filled in. I kind of sanded all this down just to kind of clean it up a bit. I did leak some resin on the other leg. I'll show that in a second. So I had this thing at an angle like this, and I kept filling it in every time, filling it in, and then boom, I went to there. So my one 2-gallon kit of Smooth On 300, I had a little bit of extra resin left in the bottom of the container, and I figured I don't want to mix this old resin with a new container I got, because sometimes you never know if something might happen. So what I did is I just kind of mixed up that resin and I filled up this leg. But what happened was, I kind of spilled a little bit over here, filled in much over there. I think it was this one. Yeah, actually this was the leg. So you can see I kind of bled down this leg over here a little bit, which was fine. You can kind of just scrape it right off. And I'm going to be sanding all this down anyway and smoothing it out. So as of right now, this upper torso is solid. These 2 legs are solid. This 1 foot is pretty much solid. There was a little bit of a hole down there, so I've been filling that in, so that's solid. I'm going to fill in this one next, and then I'm going to be working on the 2 arms, and she'll be pretty much ready to go. Now, as far as the head goes, I want to be very careful with this one, only because sometimes with a lot of these little lines in the hair and these little crevices, there could actually be areas in there that actually may leak out. So say I pour this in here and I'm not paying attention, and say there's a little bit of a hollow gap over there, all of a sudden your resin could pour over there and go. So all I'm going to do with this one is I'm going to dremel out this area, and I'm going to just shove Aves in here. I'm going to save this item over on the side, and anytime I have extra Aves, I'll shove it in there and I'll make this head solid, so this way I can have the head kind of key in and out. What I've been doing too with the cape is sometimes I had extra A's, so what I did is I put some extra A's around here at night. I sanded this down, so I'm kind of just getting this cape going too. So it's always nice to have these extra items here. What I'll be doing next is I'm going to start planning out the custom work. Basically, I don't like this a brooch here on this cape. I want to use maybe one of these metal pieces that I have that I'm working on another project with. And then her belt buckle too, you can kind of see how the belt buckle kind of comes way out from here. So I'm going to sand this down, and I'll probably utilize one of these for the belt buckle at the end of the project. You know, so if we also go onto the legs, we're going to fix up her booty a bit. Like I said, I like the sculpt a lot. I just don't like the outfit. They kind of went off of the one artist's outfit. I'm not really a fan. So here in the booty, I want to kind of clean this up, and I want to get rid of this trim. The belt, I'm going to kind of redo the belt because the belt kind of goes a little bit wobbly, but I'm going to keep the front of this area here. So I'm going to kind of clean up the belt. And then, of course, like all Power Girls, I'm going to take off this strap here, and I'm going to put a rope around here with this piece here. But I like the way the cape is. The cape actually kind of grew on me a little bit. At first, I was like, I don't want the cape. But then after a while, I was like, you know what? I kind of like the way the cape is, so we're going to kind of keep the cape. So at the very end of the project, she's going to be pretty solid. She's going to all be put together in one piece. Not really a lot of removable pieces or magnets, because especially the arms, they cut the arms in some really weird places. I'm not really a fan of the way they cut the arm. I wish the arms were attached and it was cut off here instead with the gloves. But that's alright, it's not the end of the world. I mean, I'm not complaining. It wasn't like it was, you know, $1,000 kit that I had to pick up and then I'm customizing. It was a 3D print that we printed out. The Patreon is very reasonable to sign up, so it works out pretty well. I'm also going to customize the hair a little bit, kind of clean up the front here with this piece. I'm not really a fan of the way this is kind of split here. It looks a little bit weird. So I'm going to try to come up with something at least in the front here. But the rest of the hair looks good. It's just this area here bothers me. And then, of course, I didn't print out the base for her because the base was so elaborate and so big. I didn't even think Meta John would have been able to print it in this printer. I think he would have had to like slice it in half or something. And I'm not really a fan of really crazy bases. So all I'm going to do is while I'm working on my piece in the garage, whenever I'm done casting up my copies, if I have a little bit of extra resin left, I'm going to make myself a nice generic round base. And then I'm going to just do clouds. So the way she kind of is with the original base, she sort of was kind of like on clouds, but more of like a stylized thing. So I think what I want to do is I want to kind of do the cloud look for her on this one. You know, like the Sideshow, a premium format that just came out, there's those clouds. So I think maybe I'll kind of do some clouds. And maybe what I might do is I might do a throwback to this JSA Classified from Adam Hughes, this cover. So you see the way these clouds are kind of colored like this. So maybe what I'll do is I'll kind of do a throwback and color it, paint it with these colors here, just for fun. So I'm thinking of something like that. So that's kind of like my thought process right now. That's kind of how I'm setting all this up. So once I kind of get these filled up, I kind of get my base done, and if I have any time to like get in the garage and chop stuff up, like whatever, we're going to start working on her chest. So we'll kind of come down a little bit. So the way they did it is they followed this area with, it's almost like a Superman sort of triangle. I don't like that. I want to do my typical boob window that I've done with my past Power Girls. So I'm going to kind of chop this up, kind of work out the boobs a little bit, create my circle, and kind of clean that up. I'm also going to try to take out this belt, take out this trim, get rid of all that, and rework that stuff, rework the booty. The boots are good. I'm just not a fan of these heels. Power Girl really doesn't have like heels. Usually her heels maybe go about that far down. They don't go all the way down there. So I'm going to kind of tweak those and chop those up, kind of take those down a bit on both of them. Now the other thing too is her gloves have this gold trim thing here. So I'm going to at least take that out, but I'm going to leave these the way these are. But I'm just going to take this out. I don't like these gold trim pieces. Other than that, that's pretty much it. I guess it's just a matter of finishing up with resin, start planning out my chopping, get all these pieces together. This is going to be the main part that's going to take a lot of work, all this. The other stuff is pretty much ready to go. It's just all this in here and then get it all together. And I think what's going to be kind of difficult is I'm going to have to paint her as one solid piece. Like I said, I'm not really going to have removable parts because I really want to make sure this is secured and stuff like that. So I'm going to keep going and filling this in. I'm going to get my generic base set up. I'm going to start planning some stuff out, and we'll come back after the next steps. Alright, so a little bit of an update. You can see that I've been filling all these pieces in with resin as I was doing casting and molding of an item about 2-3 weeks ago. So you can see that this is filled in here as well. Some of the resin did sort of seep up. What happened was I had this piece laying here and I poured in resin, and you kind of have to move fast with this resin because after I poured it into my mold, and then I put the pressure pot going, I had a little bit of resin in each cup, but the problem is if you don't move fast enough, that stuff will gel up and cure fast on you. So what I did is I was pouring the stuff in, and sometimes some of the resin leaked over on the edges. Not that it really mattered that much, because I'm going to be cleaning this up anyway. But one of the main ones I did, I think it was this leg here, I overfilled this by accident and it went down around the whole entire leg. But I've been sanding all this stuff down and priming it. So what it is there is some striations in here from the printer or something. I forget what John said. You can see it in this leg probably a little bit here. So what I've been doing is I'm sanding it down and then I prime it and sand it down, and I'm getting it all nice and smooth out and everything. So these areas over here might be a little bit more tricky when I get to these, only because they have a texture, but we'll figure that out as we go. Now, the reason why I did fill this up with resin, because one, I didn't want to waste a resin, and two, I like to have this piece heavier and more solid inside. Even though hollow stuff isn't really the end of the world, my experience with hollow stuff, at least back in the days, like when stuff was really thin and you would paint it, what happens is it condenses from heat and cold, and then sometimes that stuff will start cracking up your paint and that stuff. So I always like to have my stuff super solid, and like I said, I haven't had a problem at all messing with this resin with putting the smooth on in there and stuff as well. So what happens is now I chopped up the chest area, as you can see, and then you can see this white areas of the resin showing inside, like when I chopped the belt a little bit here. If you don't do that, it's not the end of the world, but sometimes this stuff might be paper thin when you're chopping it, and then when you sculpt over it, you might crack into it and break in it. So I like to have the items heavy. But what I did is I took out the brooch here. I like the cape, but I didn't like the brooch. I didn't like the belt at all. Reworking the chest a lot more because I didn't like the way that symbol was. I want to have more of the circle one. And then over here what I did is I chopped up the booty and stuff like this. So when we put the legs on her, you can see now I'm working out the booty a little bit more. So we'll have a little bit more of a, stretch and tautness in there than it being flat across. So what I'm going to keep doing now is I'm going to kind of keep cleaning this up a little bit more. And then what I'll do is I'll start working out the chest. I'll make sure I can get this area around the waist all kind of cleaned up and reworked. And then what I'll do is I'll attach the legs. And once the legs are attached, I'll rework the outfit down there. And then I'll do is a different belt going around here somehow. I don't know, I'm not sure how I'm going to do the belt yet. But it's just a matter of keep plugging away and keep going. So I just have a little bit of time this week to kind of work on some of this stuff. It's a little bit of a side project just to kind of clear my head. And I'm just going to kind of plug away. I'm also going to redo the shoes. I'm going to kind of cut them down there because she doesn't have heels really. We'll kind of clean that up. And I'll just keep plugging away on this. So I think the next step is today I got to do some garage work. And if I have time, I'll kind of clean this up a little bit more. And then I think I'll do the chest first. And then we'll attach the legs. So I really want to sand this part down a little bit more and get these cleaned up before I attach the legs. So I think it'll be easier to have the legs nice and smooth out than to sit there and try to do it when this is attached. So we'll kind of keep plugging away. But all in all, I'm pretty happy with where I'm going with it so far. So we'll just keep working on this. Alright, so sort of a little bit of an update. What I did is I got the chest up here all kind of worked out. I really like the way it came out. I've been practicing this more and more on my sculpts. So the idea is what I want to try to do is have like part of the chest kind of bubble out from the circle. So the more and more I practice this, the better and better I get at it. So this was another good piece of practicing. I did a lot of putty work around the edges here, as you can kind of see, to kind of clean it up. Because when I did the wrinkles down here, they weren't flush. So this kind of happens from time to time. But I just got to keep flushing it out and cleaning it and stuff. So now that I got the chest area where I wanted it to be, I decided to attach the leg. So what I did right now is I just went in the garage and I chiseled out this area here. And I kind of chiseled out around there. There is a rod going in between here with some A's, you know, in between there with some glue. Same thing, there's a rod in here. So this is actually on pretty well, but it's not like 100% on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix up some A's now, and I'm going to kind of create the bottom of her leotard and make it kind of like stretch in, like really pull in the booty area. I'm going to try not to fill in this area too much. I might have to chisel this out because I want to create wrinkles back here. And then once I kind of get this going and I start cleaning it up, we're pretty much almost done. All I really wanted to do was just focus on the body. Now the belt, the idea with the belt is I'm going to have it come down here and around the edge like this. Because the way they had it was coming down here like this. I'm not really a fan of the belts kind of coming around the waist perfectly. I always like the belt kind of coming on the side where you could kind of see it. It's not actually flush. So if you kind of look at my artwork that's up here, we'll kind of go up to the wall of artwork. So this picture that I did or got done by Leandro from Ed Bain Studio, you can kind of see how the belt sort of comes underneath the hip area over here. Same thing over here with this one. And then if you look over here with Carlos, it kind of comes down there. So I like to have that on the belts more when I do my stuff for Power Girl. Sideshow did it with their latest premium format as well. And I kind of want to follow that. So I just got to get up the outfit. Right now I'm going to just kind of work on this area here. I'm going to work around the booty. I'm going to try to really build this out to make like it's really tight and it's kind of like squeezing the stuff like it did up here with the chest. Once I get that done and I go from there, I can focus on the belt and then I can start working on it. Do I want the arms removable? Do I want them magnetized and stuff like that? And I also have to start planning out how I'm going to do the base. Now, I thought about the base. I don't really want to focus too much on the base and make it crazy. I know now that last night Prime 1 just showed off their 1/3 Power Girl and she's on clouds. Sideshow was on clouds, but the first Power Girl was kind of like she just smashed onto the ground, which I kind of like that idea better than the clouds. But for this one, I'm not really sure what I want to do. I want to make my own base, but I want to make sure she's sturdy. I would love to have a rod going up this leg and kind of like, you know, support her that way, but I don't think that's the case. So I think I'm going to have her going on the side somewhat. It's kind of like toying with my eyes at either clouds or maybe look like she's kind of breaking off rocks and like dirt, or maybe she's kind of flowing away from a street. I don't know. I got kind of some ideas in my head, but we'll see how that works when I'm ready to get to it. But we'll kind of work on that later on. For right now, let's kind of work on these booty area, get this done. And then as I keep working on this, I'll kind of plan that idea I have in my head for the base. Alright, so a few little updates. I had a little extra age last night, and when I had to fix the bangs on her head, I really did not like the way those bangs were looking. Very, very bland. The reason, what it was is there was one big swoop coming over here, but there was no bangs underneath of it. And really what I wanted to do is just kind of flush it out a little bit more, and I like it better. I think once I prime it up, it'll kind of look a little bit better. But I'm also not liking this spot here. So if you look at it from the side, you have all this flow coming, and then all of a sudden you have this like flat top here. Plus there was a little hole here from the printing. So I'm going to probably fill up some of this here also because like if you run your finger around this area, it's all really messed up. So I'm going to fill this part in here because it looks really, really flat if you kind of look at it from like that angle. So I'm going to kind of fill in over here when I get a chance as well. But all in all, I like the way the hair is. I just think that it was flat here and it's flat back here. And I think once I fill it up here, it'll look good. Now, what I'm doing is while I'm in the garage working on a few things, I decided let me go ahead and start getting this planned out. So the way this piece is working is I bent up a rod. Now this is my square key stock. This is zinc steel. So this is actually magnetizable, but it doesn't really matter. I'm not magnetizing it. So what I did is I took the foot here, I dremelled out up in here, and I dremelled out in here. So this way, this piece just kind of connects in real easy, like so. As you can see, I made a nice little L. And then right here, as I dremelled in a big hole there, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use some eaves, and I'm going to get this locked into place. So this way, if I want to go ahead and support her in a way, which I'm planning on it, I want it to be able to support the leg. Now, I'm thinking a little bit more and more to myself about this project of how I'm going to do the base. The idea is I want her to be like almost like in a fight scene, like she's kind of like hovering in the street. But what I want to do is I'm thinking is like roll out a big flat sheet of whatchamacallit, the freeform air from Smooth On, break it, make it look like a street, and then sort of have her like kind of in the street scene like this, where the street is kind of cracked up. A lot of dirt and pipes, and then maybe some dust coming up or like dirt, like cloud behind her to support her over there. I don't want to do the typical floating in the cloud scenes like Sideshow did, and also Prime 1 just released their Power Girl floating in the clouds. So I kind of want to give her a little bit more of a fight scene, something a little bit better. So that's kind of like the idea I'm thinking about, but I can't really kind of do that until I start getting all this done. So I figured, let me go ahead and get this leg situated. So this way it might be like a two-prong like support system. Like this leg might kind of click into the base here, and then maybe there's like kind of like a cloud coming behind her that kind of supports the back of her over here. So this way when she's in the base, she kind of like fits. Because you kind of, there's a couple ways of doing it, and I'm kind of like wanting her to go maybe more at an angle. Instead of having her straight up like this, maybe like at an angle like so, like on the base, so it looks like she's kind of like fighting a little bit, or maybe she's kind of like coming forward, maybe even something like that as well. That might actually work pretty cool too. So it's gonna be a little bit different. I'll figure that out, but I think for right now what I want to do is I want to get this leg situated. I have a little bit more detailing to go just around over in here and stuff. Finish up these two, and then I have to add the arms, and I got to add the cape. This leg here, though, I'm going to magnetize. So before I actually really like do all these other pieces, and even before I do this leg, I'm going to add a magnet into this piece, and I'm going to make this foot magnetized. So this way, whenever I have her set up, I'll be able to hit paint in this direction. Because if you have the foot attached here, it'll be a nightmare to get in between here. Even though it's going to be a little bit tricky underneath here, at least the skin tone, I'll be able to hit this over here, and this foot is magnetized. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. I'm pretty happy with it so far. I'm going to magnetize the head as well, so I'm going to probably have to try to chop this key down a little bit and then work out the key system on that as well. So I think for right now I'm going to focus on magnetizing this foot, the head, kind of finish up some stuff. Then I'm going to attach this foot when I get a chance, once I kind of have some free time to myself. And then once we're pretty much getting there, we're started kind of cleaning up, we'll go from there. And the last thing I did is I went ahead and I set up the cape up here. So what I did is I did Dremel out this area around here. I kind of cleaned this up. These are some little buttons that I found online for a while ago. And what I'm doing is this will just kind of click in at the end like that with the rope going across. So this way it's a nice gold button in there. And we're going to do some sort of similar thing with the belt. So I also have to get the belt going too. So I might even do the belt before I start even this leg and the arms, only because the belt might be a little bit tricky but we'll see. I don't know, I got to plan that as I go. So it's a little bit of a time, but at least I got the idea of the support system will hold this up pretty well. Alright, so sort of an update what's going on. So, as you can see, what I did is there's a rod going up this leg. So we got a nice good support system. What I did is this is a hollow brass rod with a nice rod in there for support. So this kind of keys into the area like that. So what I have to do is I have to sort of like bend her and position her where I want it. I'm going to Dremel a hole in there, and then I'm going to Dremel another hole, and I'm going to have this supporting underneath here. I want it to be so this way, even if you put Magic Sculpt or Aves or you put any of your sculpting stuff, that stuff could crack over time and start kind of coming down at an angle. So if you have another support system here like like this, it'll be a really good support. So what I'll do is I'm going to find out where I want her positioned, like what kind of angle I want her at, which I think might be more like kind of flying forward at an angle. Because what I want to do is I want to kind of create like a street scene where the street is kind of breaking up this way, like maybe like it's kind of like breaking apart, and maybe like some tubes, like it's a sewer system, and maybe some dust or dirt coming up this way to support another part of the calf muscle. I'm not really sure. I'm still trying to figure it out. And then what I'll do is this rod will be like if I have to put it at an angle, or if I have to put it here, wherever, just so it's kind of like a good support system wherever she goes. And once I figured that out, I'll start using this as a filler item, which means that anytime I'm working on some items and I got some extra Aves sculpt, I can start putting it on here and start kind of creating a nice support system. And then once I feel that it is nice and supported and pretty well, then I could go in with my freeform air and I can sort of kind of create like a street scene kind of breaking up. Sort of like what they did with the first Power Girl one where Mark Newman sculpted it, where they have it like she crashed it down and the street broke that way. I'm going to kind of create something similar like that, but I want to kind of create it where you see some like tubes and maybe some power lines coming out of the ground and dust and dirt. Now, if I get to the point where I feel that that's not working and it's just not lining up and it's going to look weird, then I'll just go with the cloud scene. I would rather, like, I mean, if anything, I would really love to have it where she, like, there's a car crash and it's broken and she's kind of, like, coming off the car, she's ripping a car apart, but that's crazy amounts of detail and stuff that I probably won't be able to pull off. But if I could just do a street scene, it might work. And then maybe what I could do is I could even go onto that CG Trader site and maybe find like a mailbox or something, or maybe something you would see in like New York City on the side, and maybe kind of break it up and add some extra stuff there. We'll see how we go. But I want to, the main thing is I just want to focus on her. I want to make sure she's pretty much set up. But all in all, we're looking pretty good. Head situated. This piece is magnetized. I want to do the base first and get her situated that the base could come in and out, and then I can attach the arms and the cape. It kind of sucks that they didn't make the cape and the arms removable at the gloves. It is what it is. They cut it here, which kind of sucks. I wish they actually had this kind of clicked onto there, but it's okay. I'll make it work somehow. As long as I can get the base done and she'd be able to paint on the base and I could pop her off and then paint the base, it should work out pretty well. So let me go ahead and kind of figure this out on the base, and I'll just take my pictures and we'll keep plugging away. Alright, sort of an update on the buckle for Power Girl. So what happened is I did the buckle, and then I decided that I was going to use one of these buttons. I have a bag full of them, and I was going to use this buckle and kind of go in there and just kind of glue this at the end. But every time I sculpted something around it, it just looked weird. It wasn't lining up correctly. I really didn't like the way it was working. So I tried to figure out what I could do, and I always loved this style of buckle for her, like they did on the first Power Girl premium format. And to give you guys a little bit of a backstory, the reason why I have a copy of this here is when I was doing my custom Power Girl versions, one of them I was lucky enough to put a screwdriver on the back of the buckle, and it popped right out, and there was like hardly any glue holding it. It was kind of weird how that worked out. So I actually salvaged the buckle, but all the other Power Girl customs that I did, every time I put a screwdriver in and popped it out, it would shatter it. So I left this on the shelf on the side because I always like to keep parts because you never know if you're going to need another part again. And it turned out that while I was working on my Power Girls, I had actually 2 people contact me and they say their buckles broke on them. So what happened is like the piece over here broke on a person and the other piece over here broke on a person. I told them like it's going to be a nightmare to repair it, blah blah blah. I'll never be able to kind of get repair in there, and you know, without eaves and residue and the leather piece and stuff. So what happened is it was easier for the 2 clients because there's actually, I was able to sort of put a screwdriver in there and pop it out without the leather belts coming off on the first Power Girl. So I decided, let me take this piece, and I made a throwaway mold, you know, like a really shitty throwaway mold, and I made 3 copies of it, and this was my 3rd one. I forgot I had over on the shelf, and I threw that mold away because it was only good enough to make like 3 copies and then throw away. And then basically I kept this one just in case if I ever need it again too, because you never know. So I decided to take that extra one that I had. There was a couple of air bubbles in here I kind of cleaned up and fixed. And what I did is I used some A's and I pushed this in there, and I've been kind of cleaning it up. So this is why I did this belt buckle here. Now, I would have loved to have this buckle piece separate, so I could paint this separately and then glue it in at the end. But I didn't design that in the sense that this would work that way. I would actually have to fill in this area over here, and I don't like filling in these gaps when I like to have something going around the piece to make it look more natural. So this is what I came up with. So when I'm like painting her up and she's ready to be done, I'll leave the buckle for last, and what I'll do is I'll put a bunch of silly putty around there, and I'll do my pale gold, and it'll kind of look like this but a little bit shinier. So it should work out pretty well. So that's a little bit of a tidbit for you guys. If you ever need a repair, like something like a belt buckle or something that broke off a statue that's really simple that you can do a throwaway mold of, if you have a friend that has the item or you know somebody on a forum that's willing to send you the item, you could kind of do it like a throwaway mold, make a resin copy of it, and go from there. Only because sometimes these statues, when you do repairs, if you need to rebuild something from scratch, and you need to do it with A's, residue could go all over, and it's kind of easier just to kind of make a copy, and then you could just kind of paint it and glue it in. So that's kind of how that worked out as well. So I'm going to still keep this one on the side because you never know if I'll need this for another project, so at least I have an extra one, but I think this worked out pretty well for this, you know. I like the way it's looking now, and then basically once it's kind of cured up, I could kind of prime this up and clean all this up, and it should work out pretty well. So that's why I'm always saving extra weird parts like this, because you never know if you're going to need them. So I just wanted to give you guys an update on that, and I'm going to keep plugging away on this. Alright, sort of a little update. We're coming to actually like the the final part of putting all the custom work together. So I think I'm going to do a base video after this, because this is going to run a little bit too long by trying to figure out what to do with the base. So we're going to kind of finish this off with the cape, but I just wanted to show you that I went ahead and I put the arms on. This arm over here has got a little bit of glue smudge here. I got to Dremel this out and then fix this with some Aves. And then once that's done, the arms are good, the head's good, the legs are good, and everything's good on the base as well. If you look at the base, anytime I have a little bit of extra Aves, I've been kind of filling it up in here. So this is actually really secure now pretty well. I still probably want to add more Aves anyway. And then once I kind of figure out what I'm going to do with the base, some of this will get sanded down over here that's connecting to the foot. And then I'll work out what I'm going to do. So that's kind of a little bit tricky. So right now I kind of want to finish this up of the custom work. And I decided that there is no way I'm going to be able to paint her up if I attach this cape onto her like so. If I attach this cape like this, get that on there, it's going to be a nightmare trying to paint underneath this thing. And then the other thing too is if you put her the wrong way when you're painting her, probably what will happen is this might snap off. Even if I use a nice good rod up in here and here, I still fear that this might break. Plus, it'll be easier if this cape was separate. So like I say, I wish they actually keyed this piece of the cape off. I wish it was printed in 3 pieces. This piece, and this piece, and then you could put them all together. So I probably should have done this before I attached the arms and everything. But I'm going to go in the garage now, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to chop off this key. And then I'm going to just kind of start working on this and stuff. The cape might come out a little bit further around her shoulder, which I don't mind. just to kind of make it a little bit better. What I'm going to do with my key stock, I don't have it right now, but what I'm going to do is just like I use with my normal key stock, like I did with the foot and all that stuff, I'm going to go over to the store. I'm going to buy a brand new rod. This way I can have it nice and long. And what I'll do is I'll have it go straight down into her upper shoulder. And then what I'll do is I'll have the rod come down, and the rod will come down into here around the cape. So this way it'll be a nice good rod holding up the cape. And I'll do some A's work where I can actually just slide the cape on her shoulder and slide it out. And then what will happen is when I paint it, the little piece here, the golden brooch piece on it, will be attached to the cape when it goes on. But the rope will actually be attached to the body going underneath to the bottom part of the body. So this way when you just put the cape on it, it'll just cover the rope there and cover the rope over there. So this way I don't have to worry about sliding the rope around and all that. I got the idea down. I know what I'm going to do. It's just that what's going to happen is when I Dremel this out, it's going to be very messy on her shoulder area. And it's going to be very messy over here. So that's why I'm going to bring the cape out a little bit thicker around the shoulder over here. But it's not the end of the world. It'll look fine once I'm done. But you can see, yeah, because what's going to happen is over here, it's going to chop up this shoulder and stuff. But it'll just be too much of a hassle having this. I'd rather take the extra time and build a cape that's removable than to try to get this cape attached to it, try to paint her up, and then have this break and everything go to hell on me. So that's where I'm at with this. So something I should have done in the beginning, but it's not the end of the world. It'll take me like probably 15 minutes just to cut out that piece. I'll attach the cape, and then I'll just start working out the rod system and go from there. So I'll kind of update you and show you pictures on how I do it. And then once it's all done, we'll close out this video. And then what I'll do is once I get caught up on some projects, I'll come back to the base and I'll work on the base. So this project is going to kind of go into limbo because I thought I would have been starting the base soon, but now that I decided to do this with the cape, it's going to kind of delay things. But I think it should look pretty good once all the custom work is done. Okay, so I went in the garage and I Dremeled this out. So you can see this kind of goes like right about there. I'm not really caring that this is going to be messy. I'm going to rebuild this as I go. But what I'm trying to do is I'm got my key stock and I kind of bent this up. So what I did is I really fine-tuned this edge here. This edge here doesn't really matter because this is all going to get covered. So I just wanted to make sure that this was good enough to go into the like piece. So basically what's going to happen is when I'm done with the cape, it's going to slide into like this. I would go straight down, but the problem is her angle and stuff, so I'm going to kind of go like at an angle like this. But the way I build the cape should work, though, how I got a plan. What I need to do, though, is I need to fine-tune this area a little bit more. I have to make sure it kind of comes at like an angle like this, like a triangle. Because if you have it straight on or you have it kind of like wonky, if you try to have something to go sliding in and out, it's not going to work. So I'm going to fine tune this a little bit more. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue these two pieces together. And then once these two pieces are together, I'm going to Dremel out an area in the middle of here. And I don't care if I really screw this up because I'm going to build this out. And the idea is this rod is going to go in that cape like that. There's going to be A's underneath of it. Like I said, even if I Dremel out around here, I could rebuild this. And then this way, what will happen is the cape will be able to slide in and out like that. In and out like that with the rod. Now, I mean, if you're the type of person that you'd rather have magnets, you can build a piece here. But I like to have support on my capes going all the way through the cape. That's one of the misconceptions and one of the problems I don't like about a lot of this fan art stuff I see on Facebook. Because I get a lot of people asking me to repair their capes because people think that, oh, this little tiny piece right here with the magnet is going to hold this big cape, and then what happens is this stuff breaks. Even if you put like a rod going here and a rod going here, you need to have a curved rod coming down like a hook. It's got to have a hook system in there so you don't break anything. So I like to go above and beyond with a nice good steel key stock. So what I need to do next is I got to bend this kind of coming this way, and I got to kind of go with the flow of the cape. So what I need to do is glue this piece together and then go from there. So this is going to be very messy for a while until I really get the whole keying system set. And once the keying system's set, then I can fine tune this. So let me go ahead and keep doing this. Probably what I'll have to do is before I attach this rod to this cape though, I'm going to have to complete this key system here. So I'll have to get a hollow brass rod in there, and I'll have to get this situated, and then from there I can attach the cape and I can kind of go from there. So it's going to be a little bit tricky for a while, but I'll get it to work. Alright, so before I put her up in a photo setup and kind of go over everything one last time, what I've done right now is this little piece is not glued in and the rope is not glued in. So you can see what I did is when this lifts up, the rope is going to be on her person and it's going to be glued in there, and then there's a little bit of a notch there, so this way the rope looks like it's actually attached to the brooch. So what I did is when I first did the hole, I drilled it too far over. I had to drill it underneath. So this way, this piece will be glued onto the cape, and this will be all separate, and then this rope will be glued on there. There's a little bit of a piece of tape behind her right now, holding the rope, but there's a hole back there, so what I'll do is I'll be able to glue it into here, wrap it around her, and glue it in. And this is like stretchy rope, so I think it works out pretty well. So right now I'm just kind of going over, fine-tuning her up, wet sanding her. She's not going to look pretty, but I'm going to go put her over in a photo setup. We can do a 360 of her, go through everything, and then I'll explain what I'll probably be doing with the base, and then we can just close out this video. Okay guys, let's close this out. Bear with me, I'm going to kind of ramble on for the end of the video. If you really don't want to listen, that's fine. I appreciate you guys hanging out this far, but I want to give you some insights of the whole process, what I plan on doing with the base, and kind of like review everything. So, B3Derk Studios did a really great job on this. I think their anatomy on this sculpt is amazing. I think they captured the artist design of the character very well. What I like about it is that her lower waist here and this torso here is thick. It's not really thin, and it's not she's got like weight to her. She's got nice thick legs, she's got a nice thicker upper body, but she does have the hourglass to her, which I like. It almost feels like, if you look at it from like this angle, I don't know if you ever like look at Terry Dotson's artwork and stuff. He always kind of draws his characters, but they always feel like they have a good mass to it, the way he kind of gives them their angles. So I'm really happy with this item, and I'm also happy with the changes I did to it. It's kind of funny. John printed this out for me in the beginning of the summer, and he did start changing up his resins. He got this aqua stuff from Frozen, and the stuff is really durable, and his print is an amazing, it's just, I'm really happy with it. After I filled it up with resin too, it's nice and solid. It worked out pretty well. It's kind of funny. Prime One showed off their 1/3 Power Girl a few weeks ago, and I was really excited. I've been waiting years for them to show it, and then when they showed it, I was super disappointed. It looks like a really big doll, and it doesn't look finished, and she's on clouds, and it looks like Sideshow Collectibles' second Power Girl. So I'm like, why would I want to, 1/3 of her when it's just not really liking it? And the more I started working on this custom, when I started doing all my tweaks, I almost wish that I printed this out of a 1/3, and this would have been my 1/3 Power Girl. But actually, after I'm done with this and I'm looking at her, I'm pretty happy with the scale right now, and I don't need a 1/3. It's just, there's no need for it. So all in all, this worked out really great. Now, as for the base, what I want to do is, I want to follow Sideshow Collectibles' first Power Girl, the one Mark Newman did. I like the idea that a base tells a story, but it's simple. So you could tell with the first one, Power Girl standing there, she's ready to fight, or she came into battle, but she came in, she stomped the ground, her 2 feet prints are in the base, and it's all broken apart. So what I'm thinking about this base is sort of follow the same thing, but a little bit different. So what I'm thinking is having a street, but the street is coming up and broken, and then you see a sewer pipe over here. My friend John says, hey, you could put a manhole cover there, or maybe even a fire hydrant. So I have to kind of sort of plan what I'm going to do. Like, is the street going to be here, maybe here with the fire hydrant, but the street is broken up? Now, all this stuff here, we'll kind of go over in the next video. The next video about her is going to be just about designing the base, and then after that, I'll either do a live series on, maybe Picardo, or maybe even try Rumble in 2023 of painting this up, and then we'll see what happens. But the next video, we're going to design the base. So I'm thinking about a broken street, because it looks like she's in battle, she's flying, ready to fight, rather than do clouds. I don't want to follow the cloud thing again from Sideshow and then Prime One. I'm also seeing a lot of fan art guys starting to do clouds too on their bases, which is fine. I don't mind it, but I don't want every character flying in the clouds. So that's kind of my idea with that. So now that that's said, we'll kind of break down everything that I did with her again, and just kind of go over it all. So, real quick too, my one friend keeps telling me that he likes this better than the other Sideshow and Prime One items of Power Girl. He thinks this one is probably the best one out there now, at least in my collection. But all in all, I'm pretty happy with it. So, As far as the hair goes, as we showed in the one part of the video, I added a little bit of, you know, bangs to her because it looked like it was a bald comb over. There was just like no, it looked like there was 2 strands over here and then strands over here and it was bald. So adding these bangs in here gives her a little bit more flow and it feels like more hair is flying over. I still got to clean up around in the back here. There's still a couple of print error stuff I got to clean up. I haven't gotten that far. Got to still do detailing. As you saw, we added the cape. Basically, I took the cape off. It's a big, huge rod clipped into there coming down here. Now, that's a big mistake that a lot of people do with their fan art items and even these companies. They design these capes to go in, but they don't add specific robs. You have to have sort of a hook holding on your cape. Otherwise, you just run into issues with breaking. I've seen a lot of those like magneto capes that just kind of go around the neck, and it's not like the neck and everything is attached to it, and they're breaking on people like crazy. So I've repaired a bunch of those already too. Of course, the rope and the brooch is not glued in yet. It's just as a design. Now, as far as her chest goes, what I did with her chest, because I made it bigger, but I also made it look like it's stretching. If you were to print this out and then make you know, copies of it or even sculpt it, what'll happen is your mold will go all the way down in here, will go in there, and then when you go to demold it, there wouldn't be enough play or give, and you'll probably tear it, and you wouldn't get a lot of pieces. So that's why you don't see factories doing this type of a design on a chest with Power Girl, because there's no way you could get that mold and stuff in there. So doing it as a one of a kind, it works out great. One of the things I wish that B3Derk Studios, hopefully they get better at, but one of the things is I didn't like them cutting it at the arms and then having the gloves attached to the arm. I'm sure they did that for print reasons, but honestly, it was just a nightmare to try to get this all seamed up and everything, because what's going on is the frozen aqua stuff doesn't sand as fast as the resin, as the Aves. So what happens is you get sort of a mixture, so you can see I'm doing a lot of priming, puttying, and then sanding. Priming, puttying, and sanding to get to the point where it'll work. One of the other things too I didn't like about their sculpt was the belt. The belt was very, very messy. At first I was going to leave it, but then I was like, you know what? When I saw the belt in the back, it was like thicker, and then it came thinner, and then thicker, and then the piece was sticking out so damn far. I didn't like it, so I scrapped the whole belt. I rebuilt around her waist and everything, and I gave the loose belt. And then this is the belt buckle that is from the first Power Girl from Sideshow. So all in all, I think it works out pretty well. And of course, I did fix her booty. The booty back there is a little bit tweaked. Hopefully you guys can see that. Just kind of worked that out and everything. And all in all, she is pretty much ready to go. So I'm going to keep tweaking this out. I'm going to keep cleaning it up. I'll be priming. I'll be sanding down errors. I'll be doing putty work. So hopefully by the time the base is done, she'll be ready to go. And then, like I said, we can do maybe a live stream on Rumble series, sort of painting her up, kind of get used to working on Rumble a little bit more, and then go from there. But as far as the paint work goes, we'll kind of go over that when I'm ready to start painting her up. But all in all, this is a great Power Girl. I love it. Kudos to B3Derk Studios for sculpting it. You guys did an amazing job on it. I really like it. Like I said, I'm just not a fan of that artist interpretation of the outfit. I want to have that classic look to her. But the anatomy, the pose, the face, the hair sculpt, it's all really good. I really think they did a great job on it, and I'm pretty happy. So that is my B3Derk Studios printed Power Girl that I customized. So this opens up a lot of world possibilities for me now, where I can have 3D prints printed out and I can customize them. Or, you know, if I ever decided to really get into the 3D sculpting and learning the program, I could probably tweak it and then print it out too. So, you know, the way things are working now, I'm also starting to tell people now that don't rule out a 3D print to customize, because if you like a 3D print but you want to turn it into another character, we can get it printed and we can customize that now. So we're not just limited to finding a Sideshow or an XM or a Bowen piece. We can actually start looking at 3D prints, and it also might be a little bit cheaper, because you can go and get this item, you could 3D print it, and you can start chopping it up as you put it together, and then you could do something like I did. So really great opportunity, and I think, you know, in another couple years with 3D printing, everything's going to start changing. But like I said, it'll probably still be able to customize these items and tweak them and have some fun. So let me know what you guys think of it. Do you like my version better? Did you like the Berserk's version better? Do you like my tweaks? Do you like my design idea for upcoming in base? Give me some feedback and some comments. I appreciate all the views, all the support this year too. So thanks for watching, and we'll be back with some more videos.